Playboy magazine probably did more than any other publication in the 1960s to popularize the sexual revolution. In fact, Hugh Hefner credited Kinsey and his flawed research in his first issue of Playboy. Incredibly, Robert Anton Wilson, who edited the Playboy forum throughout much of the hippie movement, has admitted to practicing Crowley's magic and reading all of his available work. Crowley taught that he was to be the leader of a youth army and ended up finding himself on the front cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. The song states that it was 20 years ago today that Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. The album came out in 1967. Crowley had died 20 years earlier in 1947, the year Leary claimed he passed on the baton to him for bringing the Satanic Revolution. This makes Sgt. Pepper a likely reference to Aleister Crowley, the father of the new eon. John Lennon summed up the entire Beatle philosophy before his death by quoting Satanist Aleister Crowley. Lennon stated, "The whole Beatle idea was to do what you want, right? Do what thou wilt." Darkness crept back into the forest of the world.
Imagine there's no country. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion.
The Church of Satan has declared a total war on...
Satanist Rex Church admits that Satanists are using music as a weapon of propaganda to influence youth around the world against Christ in order to establish the Antichrist kingdom on earth. Sadly, hundreds of millions of people of all ages, but especially young people, have fallen prey to Satan's seduction through music.
It's art, music, writing, effectively what we call propaganda, the dissemination of information to influence what we call iron youth.
Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, corresponded with many different rock stars through his lifetime. He was the author of the Satanic Bible and the founder of the Church of Satan, declared, "Today's satanic bands are the vehicle of choice for millions of young people. If they encourage a study of real Satanism, I'm all for them." LaVey, who claims that, quote, "Satan has always had the best tunes," also has admitted the following, quote, "Music can inspire people to murder or violence, can inspire them to shoot a mall full of people." Elvis Presley, like no other artist before or after, had an uncanny effect on millions of his fans. He said he had no control over the way his body responded to music, and described the transformation that took place with him on stage as though he were being possessed by some, quote, "surge of electricity." Later in life, Elvis would acknowledge that the strange powers that he'd wielded over his audiences were occultic powers that he'd received from the spirit world. Elvis, as a child, believed that he was being guided by the voice of his brother Jesse, who had died at birth, but later admitted that he was being used by a hierarchy of spirit beings. Elvis admitted, "I always felt an unseen hand behind me. I heard that same voice and thought it was my brother. That's what I thought. I heard this guidance, guiding me all my life. That's why I'm here and why I'm doing this. This didn't just happen. This wasn't mere happenstance." Author Gary Herman stated that Elvis, quote, recognized the devil's part in his success.
My middle name is Misteri. Well, I'm evil.
Elvis's former bodyguards revealed that Elvis not only believed that he had occultic powers, but that he was a prophet and that they were his disciples. Red West declared he likes to be in control. He likes to be a God figure. For many years, with real seriousness, he called us his disciples. Red West declared with conviction that Elvis possessed some kind of special powers, something like psychic powers, he said. Elvis proved it to me again and again. Stated affluent culture by producing a car and a car radio for every middle-class home gave Elvis a base for recruiting, while a car radio in the front seat rocked, young kids in the back seat were having sex to the hard rock beat. The back seat produced the sexual revolution, and the car radio was the medium for subversion. The Rolling Stones and the Beatles promoted Crowley's Satanic Revolution with their albums, Their Satanic Majesty's Request, and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. With their Satanic Majesty's Request, the Stones employed the same name for Satan as did Anger's film Lucifer Rising. On the front cover of the album, Mick Jagger is seen dressed like a warlock, and at the top of the album, Their Satanic Majesty's Request, we see the alignment of planets supposedly heralding the Crowleyan Satanic Age. What few people realize is that Their Satanic Majesty's Request was put out in conjunction with the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album to promote the new age of Satan. Both came out in 1967, both were highly psychedelic, and both were poised to take the hippie revolution further down the path of Crowley's Satanic Revolution. Both albums are also heavily adorned with Eastern mystical symbols and drugs. Both the Beatles and the Rolling Stones are wearing uniforms, and both are pictured with deadpan looks upon their faces. Notice on the front cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's is the statement, "Welcome the Rolling Stones." Tony Sanchez wrote in his book Up and Down with the Rolling Stones about a Beatles or Rolling Stones meeting where they talked, quote, long into the night about music and revolution and how they were going to change the world. On the front cover of the Rolling Stones album, Their Satanic Majesty's Request, a slightly veiled picture of John Lennon is seen. This same picture is also found on the inside sleeve of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. On the Stones album, we also see a semi-camouflage picture of George Harrison of the Beatles, his head being covered with magic mushrooms, a biblically forbidden doorway to Satan called pharmakia. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album is covered with a collage of people known as the Magic Crowd. These are the faces of different people that the Beatles considered part of the mystical club. The Beatles described them as their heroes and people they looked up to. In this crowd, you find pictures of one-worlders like Karl Marx and mystics like Edgar Allan Poe and Carl Jung and Aldous Huxley, who Crowley reportedly turned on to mescaline. The Beatles also placed a picture of occultist William Burroughs, who claimed to have become demon-possessed after killing his wife on the Sgt. Pepper's album. Also making the cast was the most popular starlet of the 1960s, Jane Mansfield. Mansfield was a high priestess in Anton LaVey's Church of Satan. Mansfield admitted to using her Satanism to both seduce and gain worldwide fame. The Beatles also placed a slew of Eastern gurus on the album as they continued their assault on Christianity. And of course, as we have noted on the top left, we find a picture of none other than Aleister Crowley. Crowley declared that he would lead an army of youth in the revolution to implement the new age, and apparently the Beatles dubbed him Sgt. Pepper. Beatles and the Stones, far from being enemies in the 1960s as many believed, were in fact corroborators in the Satanic Revolution. For those who couldn't guess the name of the spirit channeled by the Rolling Stones, the Stones spell it out in this song, quote, "Just call me Lucifer." Here we see Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones bowing homage to Lucifer, the entity who empowers the Rolling Stones. Mick Jagger is also seen here revealing his tattoos of Satan. One day, when it is too late, Mick Jagger will be cursing the very Satan who is empowering him for deceiving him and leading him to hell. John Lennon couldn't have made it any clearer when speaking of the Beatles' success and stating, quote, "I sold my soul to the devil."